Hi there, this is Scott Silverman on behalf of the Florida Atlantic NCGR. And we're here today with Canadian astrologer Kory Varlen to find out more about her workshop that's coming up on November 18th, 2023. It's going to be a hybrid workshop, meaning you can either attend in person if you're in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, or you can attend astrally if you're anywhere else on this world and have availability of Wi-Fi. The name of the workshop is the Eclipse Dragon Clans, Lunar Enlightenment for the 21st Century, and you're being granted a preview of the material that's in Kory's new book. I have it right here, Where Dragons Dance. And this book will be available on Amazon starting November 21st, but we're hoping for those of you who are attending the workshop in person that there may be a box of this book for sale, and you can have Kory sign it for you after the workshop. All right, let's get started. Kory, where and when were you born? A question all astrologers want answered on any given day.
Well, I was born in the middle of Canada in a town that has the same weather as Moscow, and it's called Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And I was born in the amazing year when they discovered how DNA works, which was 1953.
And what's your hour and minute of birth in case someone wants to check your chart to see if they should go to the website to the workshop?
They are more than welcome to. I was born at the stroke of sunset. I was born at 8:48 p.m. on May the 6th, 1953.
Wonderful. So now tell me, Kory, how did you first discover or become discovered by astrology?
Wow, that's a really hard question in a way to answer, Scott, because when I was 11 years old, my family moved out of the greater Vancouver metropolitan area, and my dad bought a business up in the beautiful Okanagan Valley in British Columbia. And it was a resort. And so people were from all over Canada, United States came in. And this really interesting Russian, this really old guy, came in with a trailer and he proceeded to live in our trailer park for about 5 years. And his name was Nikola. And Nikola, I called him Nick, was a metaphysician. And I was 11 years old and he taught me how to use crystals. He taught me about astrology. And it was game on from then.
The universe provided you with a teacher at
I
an
know,
early age.
no
Well,
kidding.
apart from Nicola, who was your first teacher of astrology?
Again, that's hard to say because I was doing radio shows in astrology when I was 16 years old. I just I just went for it.
Were
I
they
was
paying you or were you
no, I
donating?
was I was actually doing it for my teen town. I don't know if you remember the old days in the 60s, but when you were a teenager, you could join up with these teen towns and they were just so much fun. So I used to just go on the radio to promote my the Okanagan teen town, Kelowna teen town. And by the time I was 19, I was actually doing astrology professionally because, again, Scott, believe it or not, I was 18, I graduated, I moved back to Vancouver, and within a year, I found a house with a few friends, and we lived in a duplex. And you can believe it, my next door neighbor was the leading Canadian astrologer. My next door neighbor,
And who was that?
Martha Jan Wallace, she was revered in Vancouver at least because she was,
Amazing. So did
yeah,
you study
my
with him
next
at
door
all?
my next door neighbor. And she actually got me my first job teaching astrology. I was
With
19.
her, I meant. Yes. Did you study with her?
No, well, I just, what can I say? She was my next door neighbor. And so, like, we just hung out a lot. And she got me my first teaching job at a community college. Can you believe this? I was 19 years old and I was teaching astrology.
That's fantastic. And it was, I mean, what lucky students, right? Do you think of anyone as being your best teacher of astrology? If you are someone that made such an impact on how you did astrology that you have to give them a shout out?
Well, I guess Mr. Teal, because he came to Vancouver a few times and I went to a couple of his workshops.
Noel Teal, yes.
Noel, the very Noel. And at that time I was hanging out with such greats as Erin Sullivan Seal. We're also, she's from Vancouver. And we hung out at a lot of workshops. And actually, Noel Teal just set Erin Sullivan Seal's life on fire. He got her up and doing all kinds of cross Canada workshops. But yeah, Noel Teal was great. And then I've studied with a lot of people. I think I have to say, as you know, I just love this guy. I never had this book far away from me.
Reinhold Everton, yes, he's
Yeah, good old
amazing.
Epstein. And I love Jeff Green. I always have this book as a companion,
Great.
probably because I have a very potent Moon Pluto pattern in my chart, which is why I study lunar eclipses.
Well, my next question was to ask you about your tried and true astrology books, but you totally demolished that one. Good. How long have you been doing astrology?
Well, like I say, since I was 16 years old and I started, uh, if I started at age 16 and I'm born in 1953, let's do the math. My God, that's 54 years.
All right. And you, as you said, you considered yourself a professional from the age of 19.
Well, when you start taking money for something, I consider that a professional gig.
Yeah, I'm afraid I do too. All right. Now, you also do some work as a medical intuitive, I believe. How does that integrate into your astrological practice?
That's really handy to have because I'm very, very intuitive. I guess you call me an empath. My mother was a renowned psychic. The police actually used to come and visit my mother to talk about stuff. There
To
was,
have her help them solve crimes?
yeah, my mother was an incredible intuitive. I come from really strong gypsy stock. My mother's side all come from Romania, and my mother she passed when I was 18. All of my sisters and brothers are frighteningly psychic. My younger brother was almost like Rasputin. It was so scary. So as an empath, I'm just really sensitive. And I suppose because I don't know, Scott, what do you think? I have a Scorpio ascendant. Maybe that helps.
Oh, I'm sure that helps. Meanwhile, you must have very interesting family reunions. So, what remains an especially intriguing feature of your chart, assuming, of course, that you have a feature that intrigues you?
Wow, that's a really difficult question. Let me think. Well, I'm a Taurus, born May 6th. So my ruling planet is Venus. So I always look at, what's going on with people's ruling planets. I have a partile square, which means I have an exact square between Venus and Uranus, which always gets me into trouble.
But sometimes good trouble. There you go.
And I have helping out Uranus in my chart. My Uranus is in a what's called um, it's in mutual reception to my moon in Aquarius. So those two are always giving me lots of surprises.
Now, what to your way of thinking is a more tricky or problematic area in your chart? The
Well,
part you could do without.
I have to say that Venus square Uranus, it's given me so many highs and so many lows. It's just, whenever you have a partile square in your chart, and for me, it's from Aries to Cancer, you can imagine. Venus in Aries is not, I hate to use good and bad, but it's not the best sometimes. So it's, in my younger years, it certainly got me into a little bit of trouble.
Some scrapes, right? Where and how can people get hold of your new book, Where Dragons Dance, Lunar Eclipse Pathways to Personality and Prediction?
Well, I'm hoping they just go online and buy it. I think I have friends in Sweden who've already bought it. I've got friends in the United States who've already, they send me videos. They're already unwrapping my book. So I believe
Amazing.
it's on Amazon, and hopefully we will have.
Their date says in America, in the USA, they say the November 21st it will ship. So,
Well, they're already shipping because I have clients who've already ordered the book and they've sent me videos of them unwrapping my book.
oh, unboxing videos. Fantastic. When did you start working on the book, Where Dragons Dance?
I started the research in 2013 when the latest lunar eclipse lit up the planet in May of 2013. I've been researching this book for a decade and seriously started writing the book about 2 years ago. I think that's when we met.
Yes, at the Kepler Club, helmed by
Yes,
David Cochran, who wrote the introduction to your book. How did
yes,
you come to
David.
write? How did you come to write on this particular topic? Have you always been interested in eclipses and full moons, or was it a particular eclipse that got you interested?
Yeah. I've been, as I said, a practicing astrologer since age 19. And I have had a number of interesting companions throughout my life who've also been interested in astrology. And I started up a little business with one of them. And I created this little booklet that I was selling called Kory's Love Lines. And I did it based on just the lunar cycle every month. And I had fun with that.
You mean
Tim,
it was something you would put out every month, or
well, it was something that was available on my website.
great?
Uh, and
KoryVarlen.com, I believe, is your website.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
And this Scott was, of course, back in the wonderful 80s, because, time moves along here. And the most famous astrologer in Vancouver, his name is Tim Stevens. He's well known throughout Canada. And Tim and I were in business together. And Tim and I rented this really funky studio in Gastown where they filmed 50 Shades of Grey.
They they
And
they they filmed 50 Shades of Grey. Is that what you said?
yeah, that
All
was
right.
filmed in Gastown in Vancouver. And so Tim and I had this really funky third third floor walk up studio in Gastown. And anyway, so I was producing this wonderful little brochure called Kory's Love Lines. It was all based on the lunar cycles. So I have a very strong moon. My moon's in the third house in Aquarius. My north node's in the third house. I've got this massive opposition to Pluto in the ninth. So I could read when I was 4 years old. My sister taught me how to read. So I've been
Good thing
always,
you like that Jeff Green book then. All right. Yeah.
I love Pluto. Pluto and I are really good friends.
Now, at 591 pages, your book is a hefty piece of work that didn't happen overnight, but did you enjoy the process of writing it?
Absolutely. Scott, there's nothing more that I enjoy than astrology. I never even have to take vacations. I mean, for me, my work is just pure joy. Love it.
Very, very cool. Now, why should anyone buy your book, or for that matter, attend your upcoming workshop for the Florida Atlantic Chapter of the NCGR?
Well, wow. Okay. Well, I think as everybody knows, Pluto's going into Aquarius in January. Brand new energy on the planet. And I would just say, without my ego speaking, that I have become a channel for this new information, and we're changing our landscape. We're in a whole new environment now, and I'm a product of this new environment, and my research is a product of this new energy coming in, and it's time for people to get an update on how lunar eclipses work, because the lunar eclipses, I mean, I used to use them all the time in my charts. They worked. I never thought more about it. And then I just had this great download, an incredible download in 2013. It's kind of like what Carl Jung talks about, Carl Jung, the famous psychoanalyst.
Right.
I mean, he spoke of the importance of this land of dreams and fantasy and stories out that live between what we know and what we don't know, right? Between what we can comprehend and what is totally just
Out there.
beyond our comprehension. And in the middle, there's this beautiful space where inspiration can kind of come from the unknown through our dreams and our, storytelling into that part of us, which is the part where, like, we really absolutely know what's going on. And so that has happened for me, where I got these incredible images and downloads in 2013 about how these lunar eclipses work.
Fantastic. Were there any particular progressions or transits in 2013 that you associate with this download process? Just out of curiosity. All right.
No, absolutely none, which is why it was even more emphatic about how these lunar eclipses work, because my chart just lit up when I looked at this incoming lunar eclipse, Scott. It was just like, wow, does this lunar eclipse have a message for me? And it was only because I was literally told, it was like channeling. It was like I was literally told to go look at the very beginning of the cycle. Like the very first eclipse is what you have to master. And in a way, I kind of maybe had the seed that was planted um, maybe 10 years earlier, thanks to Bernadette Brady, because I studied with her, I bought her books. And I knew, because she did, Bernadette was doing, do you remember that book she wrote, The Eagle and the
Well, see, I'm long enough in the tooth that my copy is still actually called The Eagle and the Lark. And
Yeah,
then
mine
about
too.
quite a while ago, they just retitled it Predictive Astrology. And
Right.
Brady's book is where I first read about the Saros cycle eclipses. But she
Yeah.
only examined the solar eclipses of the Saros cycle. How come no one else ever talked about the lunar eclipses of the Saros cycle until now, until when dragons dance, where dragons dance?
Well, I absolutely can tell you why. Let me just go back a bit though first, because I mean, Brady did a great job, and she's a wonderful teacher. I just adore her.
She's
However,
pretty great.
in the Saros cycles, especially in the appendix of that book, The Eagle and the Lark, there's a lot of, unfortunately, there's a lot of mistakes in terms of when these eclipses were birthed. And she primarily had these, uh, I don't know. Anyways, there's just the information was not correct, and I double checked everything. And then besides solar eclipses, she had some of the lunar eclipses as well indicated, but she never got into the analysis of them.
I think both she and Jansky had some flawed data through no fault of their own. And I know that, I think I must know this from you, that there are updated enumerations of the Saros cycle eclipses on the NASA website, which
Yeah,
differ substantially from the earlier
yeah,
list of Saros
yeah,
cycle eclipses
yeah,
that astrologers have been working with, in part from
yeah.
Jansky's work, in part for Bernadette
Right.
Brady's work. Now,
Mhm.
do you think, is this going to cause confusion in our field that there are two different ways of numbering Saros cycle eclipses? And which numbering scheme do you use in Where Dragons Dance? You use the
Right.
NASA, I think, right?
All right. Well, I just go to the source, which is NASA. I go to Mr. Eclipse, which is Fred Espenak. Fred Espenak is a fabulous resource on
Say
the
that name again for my ears.
Fred Espenak,
Okay.
Espenak, I think. Anyways, Fred Espenak has done what he calls the five millennia of,
Millennia.
yes, of lunar
Millennium.
eclipse, yeah, of lunar eclipse data, and it's spot on. And all you have to do is just convert from, the Julian dates to the. You just have to make sure that you're aware of how the dates change, right? But
The calendrics as they changed over
yeah,
time. Yes.
exactly. Thank you. And so the NASA data is what I use. It's spot on. And all of the eclipses are based on this data. What I call mother chart, the beginning of every cycle. Well, you'll see it in my book.
Now you
Um,
call them mother charts because you're working with lunar eclipses, right? I
well, and I have a lot of fun with these mothers.
just tell our viewers what a mother chart is, please.
Well, everybody has a cosmic mother. Everybody has a family of eclipses Some of us actually have two. In fact, some of us even have three, because as you may know, Scott, a woman gives birth to a baby after about, I think it's about 40 weeks.
Gestation. Okay.
So the gestation period in which you're in the womb is about 40 weeks. And during that time, the incredible connection between mother and child, and the body is developing. You're getting all the DNA downloads, but you're also getting all of the cosmic leptons and bosons. You're getting all of that, energy coming at you. And I track that through the eclipses, and we have an eclipse almost every 6 months. So a lot of people have at least two eclipses that are influencing their
Two
energy.
prenatal eclipses.
Yeah, two
Or
prenatal.
pre-birth lunar eclipses, because we're going to
That's
be
right.
talking about your term in a moment. The
Yeah.
PREBLEs. Yes.
The PREBLE. Yes. So I'm just so excited to be. Well, we're going to have a lot of fun at the event on November 18th.
I think you also took Burnett Brady's Fixed Stars program, right, and got a diploma in that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty tough. I got through that. Lots to learn there. The fixed stars are just fantastic. I never do a chart without looking at someone's fixed stars.
Now let's go over some of the new terminology that you developed in the course of writing your book. Terminology you're gifting to the 21st century astrological community. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'll say the term and then you tell us what it means. And the first one, PREBLE, PREBLE, and I put an M in there earlier, I don't know why, is easy enough that I figured out it means immediately. The acronym stands for pre-birth lunar eclipse. PREBLE.
Right, PREBLE. You're PREBLE.
PREBLE.
PREBLE. Yes.
That's the Canadian pronunciation. PREBLE. Yes.
Yeah. How do you guys pronounce it? Say it again.
I say PREBLE, right? So,
okay.
Maybe that's because wobbles weeble, but they don't fall down.
Sure.
How about the term cosmic bridges? Could you tell us what a cosmic bridge is?
Sure. But before I tell you what a cosmic bridge is, can I tell you what a space lane is?
Oh, I wish you would. Yes.
Because a space lane is even more powerful. And you actually had one, because I know your chart, Scott.
All right.
You actually had a space lane in the last eclipse, the one that we had in May. May, remember May?
So I don't have to pay a lot of money to any internet billionaires to travel my space lane. I can do it every day with my chart.
Yeah. So when your chart connects to a mother chart, and any of the nodes, the nodal axis in that mother chart connects into your chart, you have got a space lane, which means that energy, you can just ride that energy. It just comes in. It's just like superhighway. I call it a space lane, because whenever that nodal axis, if that nodal axis is hitting any of the angles in your chart, oh my Lord. I mean, your life just really speeds up. And I think that's been happening for you since May.
It certainly has been. And what about cosmic bridges? What does that mean?
Oh, that's just, yeah. I just love cosmic bridges, because cosmic bridges happen when the eclipse axis or the nodal axis
of the eclipse chart.
So yeah, so whenever from the eclipse chart, from the mother, the mother. So whenever
when you say the mother chart, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. The mother chart is the first chart of a particular series
of the series.
Saros cycle lunar eclipses. So
yes,
basically my prenatal eclipse
112.
112, I'd have to go back to the first eclipse in that series to find the mother chart. So I wouldn't be using the eclipse right before my birth as the mother chart. It would be the first eclipse in that series. Is that right?
That's right. And in my book, everybody will find their mother chart.
Follow your bliss. I love it. Okay.
So that's the mother chart. That's the very first chart of the series.
And what year was that chart? What year was that chart?
Your mother eclipse was born in 859. So you're an old fart.
So it's long before 1959, the year I actually was born. Interesting.
Yeah. God. So now every eclipse tells the major the major midpoints, the major isotraps, and it gives the length of the eclipse. Your eclipse is 1,280 years. Most of these eclipses are running anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 years. And that's when it just hit me, Scott. It was like, oh my Lord. It's like these eclipses, like us, are evolving. And it was
You mean
just
the
such a,
entire series of eclipses is in the process of evolution,
yes,
self-evolution. Yeah.
just like us. Because your mother, your eclipse, like my eclipse, like everybody's, mother eclipse, they arrive and they have a time on the earth and then they're gone, just like us.
Truly. Truly.
And the more I studied these, I just realized, because I saw what was happening, because I don't well, I'm interested in a lot of things. I have a degree in education, and one of my majors was history. So I love history. I love looking at what's going on in the world.
And
And I,
you also taught English as a second language, I believe, for many years,
yes, I spent 10 years in South
which
America.
changes the brain in
Oh
another
my
way.
God.
Yep.
Well, I really changed my brain was living at the equator, because I was right on the equator for 10 years.
Well, that's such a major influence on astrologers to actually go and live at the equator and experience the
Well, I felt it. I felt it. I could feel my brain. I could feel everything in my body moving faster. And I was, again, I have the sun right on the seventh house cusp. I attract amazing people into my life, Scott. And met I met not just a physicist, he was almost like a cosmologist, just an incredible man. And he actually told me, he said that when you live at the equator, everything's speeding up because the rotation of the earth is
gravity
faster.
is different. And if
It's
gravity is
faster.
different, time
The
is different.
rotation of
Right.
the earth is moving faster at the
There are
equator.
temporal anomalies at the equator.
Yes.
This is well known.
And
Now,
everybody's energy field, if you can pick it up, you can feel it. And I felt it within, my God, within 3 months. It's like I could feel it.
it sounds, it's like going to Iceland where you're near where all the energy lines cross, right? Of astrocartography. We should
Yes.
all
Yes.
go to the equator and to Iceland if we get a chance. Now, I want to
Yes.
get back to the terminology for a second.
Okay.
You had another term called global gateways, but that's different than space lanes, isn't it?
Yes. So
What's a global gateway?
I am introducing 3 new terms into our astrological
Vocabulary.
vocabulary. I'm introducing space lanes, which comes from your mother chart activating your angles of your chart. So if your
Okay.
mother chart's axis from the nodal axis or the eclipse axis activates, the main structure of your chart, which are the angles, those are space lanes. Cosmic bridges, basically anything in that mother chart, anything that's in that mother chart that touches by first or second harmonic, which is just conjunctions and oppositions. That's all you have to think about. Lunar eclipses are not that hard to figure out once you've got the keys, because all you have to look at are your conjunctions and your oppositions. And wow, if you've got cosmic bridges, you're gonna feel it. And in a way, it's like being able to pick up the BBC or pick up different channels. Like if you've got more of these connectors, you get the full panoply of the cosmic downloads from that chart.
What about the global gateways?
Oh, those are incredible. I couldn't believe it when I discovered these. I was looking, the old node. I mean, I love the nodes. And I was looking at these nodes in the mother chart. And I noticed that when the nodes were the same, like when the mother chart had, let's say the nodes, let's say the north node's in Aquarius. And in your chart, you have the north node in Aquarius. And I really noticed this when the mother chart was coming back every 18 years, because all these eclipses come back every 18 years. That's the Saros cycle, right?
Right.
So I would notice when your mother eclipse would come back every 18 years. And I would just notice that if that node, especially let's say the north node, hit your north node, it's like some really disturbing things would be happening to you. It almost was like depleting your energy. Whereas the opposite was true. If the south node was activating your north node, wow, did people get a charge? It was like everything just started to happen and happen in a really, I hate to say it, but like good way. Good way. It was like the south, it was like the north node on your south node was a drag. But the north node on your north node was a
North
drag.
node was a drag.
But north node from the mother eclipse was on your south node. I think I got that right. It was incredible. It was like, wow,
It was
what
like
a day. The universe is just saying,
the universe is giving you voltage, right?
Yes. And
Excellent.
isn't that exactly how a battery works? I mean, you have to have that opposite negative, positive
Right. It's like batteries. Exactly.
It's Ohm's law. You have to have. And I just thought, oh my Lord, because all astrologers, again, I mean, there's a lot of things that work in astrology.
Yes,
And there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't. And I have to say, I've never been that impressed with watching the north node hit my north node or the south node, the transiting south node hitting my natal south node or the transiting north node hitting my natal north node. I never know this much in the way of, and I've been doing charts.
event manifestation.
I've
Yeah.
been doing charts for so long. I just noticed this. It's like, nah, nothing much, nothing much. But the lunar eclipses really will light you up. If your mother chart has a north or south node and it hits the opposite polarity in your chart. Wow.
And that's a global gateway.
That's a global gateway.
All right, good. I have it straightened out in my brain now. Now,
there's 4 different types.
Let me ask you this. Will the book tell the readers, and I know they're going to learn this in the workshop, how to figure out their own pre-birth lunar eclipse?
Oh, yes. And in fact, I'm giving everybody who attends a gift, Scott, a personalized, well, if they get registering, before for me, that my deadline, because I've got so much going on here, like if the early participants who register are going to get the total package. They're going to get a 3-page personalized handout from me with their PREBLE and their natal chart, and a lovely summary of what your PREBLE means.
So you're going the extra mile for our
am.
workshop participants, and I know it's a lot of work, so this is great. I know I'm looking forward to, actually, I've already gotten my packet. I know what it looks like. Exactly.
And isn't it beautiful? Isn't it beautiful to see you in the center in your natal chart and then your mother chart on the outside in the bi-wheel? Isn't it beautiful?
It is.
And because right there, you can see your connections. You can see what's connecting in to your chart.
Now, we were discussing the pre-birth lunar eclipses, and you also introduced the novel concepts in your book of the 4 dragon clans and the 47 tribes, which are distinctive categories to help one to better understand the powerful dynamics of the Saros cycle lunar eclipse patterns. Can knowing which dragon clan is most prominent in your chart offer us a new perspective on our endlessly eyeballed nativities?
Well, again, I wrote this book for me. And when I discovered these elemental energies within every eclipse, I just kept going like, wow. I feel so sorry for so many of my clients that I had to practice this stuff on. But basically, every mother eclipse has a moon opposition sun, right? A lunar eclipse is a full moon. That's it. And then I was thinking, okay, these are lunar eclipses. So rather than give all the power and the glory to the sun, let's look at the moon. And I looked at the moon and I went, yeah, we're going to be looking at the moon energy primarily. And so if the moon in your lunar eclipse mother chart was in Sagittarius, which I know it is for you, Scott, 112, when 112 was born, and what did I say, 859?
Yep, something like that. Close enough.
The moon was in Sagittarius, and the sun was in Gemini. And so what that made me realize is that there's a basic fundamental rhythm to the eclipse, which is fire. And so everybody born in a fire, with a fire eclipse moon, is going to carry this visionary energy. No matter what sun sign you are, you could be a Virgo with a moon in Capricorn.
And
You
this
can be
would
a
make you
Taurus.
part of the Fire Dragon Clan, right?
Yes, you
There
can
you
have
go.
a natal chart, all this, Virgo or Capricorn energy, right? And yet you're carrying this visionary energy, which is fire. And so many of my clients have said, "Oh my Lord, now my life is starting to make sense," because I could never quite. It just gives this wonderful new, again, element to
It sort of
understand
restores a key element to the chart that maybe the
that you
person thought
never,
was missing.
that
Right.
yes, that was missing, that you never, like, you know how we love to be told who we are, and everybody likes to hear. I mean, who doesn't like to have an
The
astrology
most
chart?
interesting topic for any audience is their own chart. Absolutely.
Right. And so what I've discovered, though, in my old age is that there's a lot of stuff that we really don't know about ourselves. It's like we're continually learning who we are, right? And to have someone be able to sort of say to you, you have all this capability and you've never really touched into it. And I just want to encourage you, because now I want to just, share with you the fact that you have this powerful new element that's undermining your whole life. And you know how it is, Scott. I mean, if nobody gives you encouragement for something, you're never going to do it unless you're highly motivated. So it really does. It really will make a difference. I just say to people, you're not going to be excited about these lunar eclipses. You're going to be astonished at how well they work.
Now tell me, what kind of things do the 47 tribes category tell us about?
Well, again, there's 47. I call them tribes because there's 47 eclipses.
And these
It's
are
like that.
divisions. Are these divisions of the Dragon Clans, or are they something different?
They're members, honey. They're members of the
Members of the
Dragon Clan.
clan. There you go.
Yes,
Okay.
they're members. So in your clan, because you're part of the Fire Clan, you've got 15 tribes that belong to that clan. It's the biggest clan.
Wow.
Whereas if you belong to the Water Clan, there's only 9.
So it's a much smaller
Yeah,
room is needed for
yes.
the
So,
assembly.
every clan has just, yeah, stellar memberships. And I'm going to go through only the tribes that show up for my lectures. So whoever comes, you're going to get access to tribal information. I can't go through all 47.
And do
That's
the tribes, does that have something to do with your skills or abilities?
absolutely every tribe, and that's what you'll find when you get the book. I go through in great detail, especially for professional astrologers, how I figured all this stuff out. And every tribe have special skill sets. Every tribe,
Has what?
skill sets,
Oh, right.
special skill sets, special abilities, and special kind of like, be careful. You might be overdoing it here and there. So, it's,
Do you remember what my tribe, what the special skill set was?
well, you guys are visionaries. So, with 112, 112 just has a lot to offer the world, Scott. Just so much to offer the world. Now, in the very back of every chapter, and
All
there's
right.
47 chapters, I
Got
have
the
a
book right
summary.
here in the back of
I have
every
a summary.
chapter.
I have a summary that lists in English. So this book is available for people who don't even speak
Oh, you
astrology
have like a list of names of people.
as well. I call them the luminaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, what I've said here is that if you're born under 112, it just takes you into the world of exploration, whether it's science or prophecy or spirituality or whatever culture you're interested in. There's this just energy of the pioneering spirit, right? Because your moon is in Sagittarius.
There you go.
You have this beautiful moon in Sagittarius that just wants to really live in peace. 112 actually has a very strong energy about wanting to be a peacemaker. So there you go. Your life is about trying to become one with God, God essence, goddess.
And, I'm sure that's a lifetime process,
And
more
what
than
you'll
one
find,
lifetime.
and what I love, Scott, about how these eclipses work is that every 18 years they come back. And it's like they're checking up on us, like, how are you doing? Are you with the program? They just have this
So
wonderful,
the themes of the mother chart reignite in our chart every 18.6 years, which is different than just having the same degree, like
yeah, yeah,
um
yeah.
re reanimated. Now, let me ask
Well,
you, I did,
yeah.
okay, go ahead, please.
No, I was just gonna say, um, again, it depends again on these connectors, right? Like when you look at your chart and then you look at your mother chart on the outside, like a biwheel, it's like the more connections you have, right? The more first and second harmonics, the more you can just pick up the energy of your mother chart
The more connections I have with my natal chart
to the mother chart,
to the mother chart, yes.
right?
Yep.
And so you kind of move through life with this package. And then every 18 years, when your eclipse comes home, you just can really pick up the signal again, right? So you're really being able to pick up the signal. It's kind of like, when people have problems with their Wi-Fi or people have problems with their phones. Maybe you're
And
not
they're looking for a
posting
hot
well.
spot on the hill,
Yeah,
right?
you're looking for a hot spot. And let me tell you, life gets very hot every 18 years when your mother comes home, if you're connected.
Connected back to that particular energy. Now,
Yeah.
I wondered reading the book, I'm not done with it yet, but is there a useful mundane application of this work? Take, for example, the World Trade Center bombing of 9/11. Would the pre-birth lunar eclipse or the pre-event lunar eclipse and its mother chart impart additional and valuable information about an event chart? I think in the book you did a very interesting analysis of the financial meltdown of 2008,
Right.
comparing the pre-birth lunar eclipses of two different companies, one of which was bailed out by the government and
Right.
one that wasn't, to offer
Right.
a clear illustration about how
Yeah.
influential these pre-birth lunar eclipses can be.
Right.
So
Yeah, I
what
remember
what
that.
would I learn? What would I learn from taking the pre-birth lunar eclipse of an event chart? Is it
Oh, it'd be, I mean, my book is filled, Scott, with examples, historical examples, right? Like Chernobyl, um, wars, companies in meltdown, companies like Google, companies that began. Yes,
so
because
there's very much a mundane application of this work. Cool.
yes, and
Um,
mundane astrologers will get, again, this is just a tool. Like I say in the book, try it out, use it, don't use it. Whether you're a sidereal astrologer, tropical astrologer, we've all got many tools in our toolbox. This is just one.
our Uranian astrologer. Let's not forget the
Good.
Uranians,
Or
right?
vibrational astrologers. I
Our
mean, like I
vibrational astrologers. Yes.
listen, I've tried it all. I've got my DOSas down. I've got it all. And I'm a Taurus. I want this stuff to work. And I
I
will
know.
go out of my mind trying to find the latest techniques that actually work.
Well, we only have a few more questions left, but I wanted to ask you, you delineate the charts of a lot of notable high achievers and celebrities in your book, as well as just plain folks. But what if you crossed paths with one of these exemplary individuals? Say on your upcoming flight to Cuba, you get seated next to Chef Jamie Oliver. How would you or could you briefly and succinctly summarize the impact of his two pre-birth lunar eclipses, Lunar Saros 125 and Lunar Saros 130, on his life? Could you just sit there and sort of pull it up and tell him something that would blow him away?
Well, first of all, because I'm traveling with my book, I would tell him he's in my book. And then I would, of course, just ask him if, you know, if he'd like to talk about how amazing he is. And of course, most people, are you kidding? Who's going to everybody's going to jump at that chance. So no, um, and actually, I have a real problem sometimes holding back from sharing because I'm just so in love with astrology, and I have been. I've told you since age
And
11.
excited about this particular work. Right.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, because that's the key word, Scott. It works. It works. And there are so many techniques in astrology. There's so many tools we use. And I don't know about you, but I can get lost in the woods, and I sometimes can't see the forest. And what I found with these lunar eclipses, because they're coming every 6 months, they just give this beautiful,
Illuminated
simple,
pathway through the
illuminated
woods.
pathway. And all you have to focus on is maybe 2 or 3 main ideas. Like, okay, if you just focus on this energy and what it means, and then you figure out where you can do the activities, the processes that will help you integrate this energy into your life, right? That's It's so simple. It's so simple, and yet, as you know, the most complex things. If you can just get to that the essence of it. It's just
The essence.
these are amazing. I just yeah, I'm
You're
just
looking forward to
totally
the workshop, it's obvious.
yeah,
Now, let me ask
yeah.
you this. Suppose that someone is trying to map out the celestial weather of their next few years in terms of what is likely to happen. And let's pretend that they already have a Jyotish advisor, so they already know what dasha they're in. And their
Yes.
Western astrologer has already briefed them ad nauseum on their upcoming aspects by transit and progression. What blanks in the predictive mosaic will your system of Saros cycle lunar eclipse patterns fill in, if any?
Well, yeah, well, because the dosas, as you know, can go anywhere from what, 4 or 5 months up to 18 months. So the eclipses just give again a really nice solid, here's the 6 month energy that you need to focus on. And the dosas are there, and they give again some really nice background information. So it's just a matter of
But what will they get? What will they get from looking at the the lunar Saros cycle eclipses that they're not going to get from these other systems? They'll get
oh,
corroborating info,
right.
but
Yeah. Well, what they're going to get and what I teach in my workshop, and hopefully workshops coming as Pluto moves into Aquarius, is you're going to learn how to use these activation degrees that light up your chart. So you've got the mother chart, but because the mother chart's coming back every 18 years, and as you know, eclipses, they keep moving along the ecliptic, right? So when an eclipse comes back every 18 years, it's not going to be in the same spot. It's going to be moved. It will have moved by about 10, 11 degrees along the ecliptic. And so these activation degrees will light up certain parts of your chart in ways that will just like, and there's no progression to this information.
it's actually sort of a new class of information. It's
Totally. This is a new tool that I am introducing to the astrological community. And I'm telling you guys, it works. And as I said, we're ready for something new. Pluto's moving into Aquarius. We've got to up our game. We've got to start using, we have to start using the technology that
all
we
the
have.
tools and technology at our disposal. Yes.
Yes.
Now,
And
I wanted to ask
yes,
you, you did study vibrational astrology with David Cochran for
yes.
a while, and I swear when I was flipping through the book's pages, I could have sworn I caught a glimpse of an isotrap cavorting with a fire dragon. Do people need to have that much specialized knowledge about midpoints or isotraps when approaching this work, or do you just tell them everything they need to know?
Well, when you read what your eclipse is all about, the information that's contained within the isotraps and the midpoints are already woven into the basic themes of what your lunar eclipse is all about. But for anybody, yeah, check out your isotraps. Just look at your natal chart and look at your isotraps. They're foundational.
Can you tell our viewers what an isotrap is? Am I putting you on the spot here? But if
Well,
you
an
can, I
isotrap,
will.
sure. Maybe you should, Scott, because
Well,
you're probably more technical
an
than I am.
isotrap is basically another name for what Uranian astrologers used to call planetary pictures. It's like an A plus B equals C plus D formula. So you have two sets of equidistant midpoints. I think that's a good,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. And
But
they're basically kind of like the Arabian parts, right?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Let's see. You've told them about the individualized and informative worksheets you're doing for the attendees of the workshop. And is there anything else that people coming to the workshop have to do to prepare for it?
No, just come with an open heart, an open mind. Come with I don't want to say expectation, but just come with an openness to change and to uh see this technique work, and to lay down any prejudices people might have, or
To see how it works and if it works for you.
yeah,
That's what they're here to do.
just
Yeah,
sort of, just stay. All I can just say is just stay open. That's the best thing anyone can do now. Stay open and be ready to learn, because we're living in a time period now, Scott, where the only thing that matters is your ability to learn and to be flexible.
amazing. It's
We
true.
all have to do that if we're going to survive.
Because we're
The
living in a world that's in flux
We
like
are
no
living
other time I can
absolutely.
remember. And I
Yeah.
remember the year 1968. So there you go, which people always say that about 1968. Now, is there any last thoughts you'd like to share before we sign off? I'm pretty sure you're investigating in depth the two most recent Saros cycle lunar eclipses that happened on May 5th and October 28th. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we say goodbye?
Well, yes, I'll give people a little taste of what's coming up. We're currently in Lunar Saros 146. Lunar Saros 146 is the mother carries a moon in Capricorn. And not only does she carry a moon in Capricorn, she has Saturn right beside her. So can you imagine? We are moving into this energy field with a moon Saturn. And it's Saturn in Capricorn. It's dignified, it's strong. It says, let's get to work, let's create, let's get out there in the world. And yet, Saturn carries a square, a partile square to Pluto. Can you imagine this, Scott? Pluto's at 22 Aries in the mother chart.
Wow.
The energy field we're moving into has a Saturn square Pluto.
And that Pluto's on the Aries axis or cardinal axis, world axis,
Yes.
which
And it's at
gives it
20, it's
even
at
more
20,
oomph.
and it's at 22, and it's a critical degree. It's part of the degrees I work with, which tells me that the world is going into deep, deep chaos, and we're already in it. And as you know, eclipses start about 3 weeks before. You can feel the energy. And what happened on October 7th, 3 weeks before 146 hit? The
We know
Middle
what
East blew
happened.
up.
We know what
The Middle East,
happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling people there's a lot of difficulty coming in this next 6 months, just because of the descent and the aggravation that's going to come. I mean, anybody that's got a Saturn Pluto knows this. It's like life is not going to be a bed of roses in the next 6 months. So come and find out how you can work with this energy to change your life, so that it's not disruption, but it's just total transformation.
Cool. All right, then, Kory, on behalf of the Florida Atlantic NCGR, thank you for making the time to speak with us. And we'll see you at 10:30 a.m. Saturday, November 18th, for a full day of dragons and dancing. Over and out.
Bye, Scott.